Welcome to the 8th grade Math Homework Helper Series. Tonight's homework is F7, Describing Functional Relationships from Graphs. We'll start with taking a look at question number 3. Identify each function as piecewise linear or piecewise nonlinear, and then identify where the functions are increasing, decreasing, or constant. And my hint here is to read the lines from left to right. So as we can see, the origin is right here. And if we break it into two pieces and we look at each one of these from left to right, as we move this way, we can see that the bottom half of this function is increasing as it's moving up towards 0. And if we look from 0 up this way, we can see again that this is increasing as it moves right on the graph. So what that tells us is that this function is piecewise and it's nonlinear because of the curving lines. Next one we're going to look at asks to create a graph based on the situation. So we have a scuba diver jumps into the water and descends at a constant rate for 4 minutes to a depth of 18 meters. She spends 24 minutes at that depth. She then ascends at a constant rate of 4 minutes to a depth of 6 meters, where she takes a 4-minute safety stop. She then ascends to a constant rate for another 4 minutes, and then reaches the surface of the water. So the first thing we need to do is think about what we would want for a title on this graph and where we want to put the information for the y-axis and the information for the x-axis. So, keeping in mind that the y-axis is for dependent information and the x-axis is for independent information, we need to think about what is forcing what. So in this equation, in this question, I would suggest that the amount of time is forcing the depth. So she can only spend a certain amount of time at each depth. And if I were looking for a title for this graph, I would say we could call it time versus depth. Okay, now let's take apart the question and figure out where we want to put the information on the graph. So a scuba diver jumps into the water. That means this scuba diver is starting at 0, and that's where my first point is. She descends, which means goes down, at a constant rate for 4 minutes to a depth of 18 meters. Well, as you can see, the intervals on the graph are 4 minutes each. So that means when she reaches 18 meters, she'll have reached this point on the graph. And you can see 18 would exist between 16 and 20. So it should come right down to here. Now let's go to the next sentence. She spends 24 minutes at that depth. So we're moving by increments of 4, and so that would be 6 increments to get to 24. So that brings us to 28. So because she spent 24 minutes at the same depth, it creates a straight line. She then ascends or climbs at a constant rate of 4 minutes to a depth of 6 meters. So between the spot we're at now, 28, and 32, she'll have climbed back up to 6 meters. And if you look back over here, you can see 6 meters is right between the 4 and the 8. So we should be coming up somewhere in here. Then she takes a 4-minute safety stop. So for that 4-minute period of time, she's not going any lower or any higher. She's staying at that same depth. So that's just going to be a straight line. And lastly, over the course of 4 minutes, she reaches the surface of the water, which is going to bring us right up to there. So with that in mind, we need to talk about why we labeled the x-axis the way we did and why we labeled the y-axis the way we did. So we labeled the x-axis as time, and we did that because time is the independent variable. We labeled the y-axis as depth because depth is the dependent variable. Please use these problems that were done for you to help you to solve the additional problems that are on your homework tonight. Remember, the key to success in math is not only working hard, but working smart.